Okay, thank you so much. Welcome to Next Chapter. A little bit about Metronet. Metronet is hosting this. We are the multi-county, multi-type library that serves the metro area. This is a very unique situation for Minnesota. I think there's only a few other multi-types that exist. My name is Stephanie Slaughter. I am the programming librarian with Metronet, and I'm going to pass it off to Ann Walker-Smalley.
I'm Ann Walker Smalley, and I'm the director of Metronet, and I've been with Metronet about 17 years or so. My background is in mostly special libraries, but I've also worked in other types of libraries. And we started this series because I think it's very useful for people to review their job history, their job prospects, their job goals. We've invited Kelsey Baum to participate with us. Kelsey's been a consultant to Metronet for a couple years, maybe, working on various aspects of human resources with us. She helped us in the hiring process for Stephanie's position and some other aspects of our HR, because Metronet, like most of the other multi-county, multi-type systems in Minnesota, are tiny. You're seeing the entire two-person Metronet staff today, but we also have a 10-hour-a-week person who works on our website. But we do a lot with a few people, so we are always looking for experts to help us. So I will let Kelsey expand on her background and her expertise in leading these workshops.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Anne. I do want to comment on the Metronet team and call it small but mighty. The things that they're able to do and put out, like this webinar series, is really impactful for a lot of the people, not just in Minnesota, but across the country. And so I'm a little biased because we have been working together for almost a couple of years now, but really enjoy the team and what they're able to do for the library and library adjacent community. So as Anne said, we've been working together for a couple years. My name is Kelsey Bohm. I've been working in HR and talent for over 10 years now, which is and even longer than that, but we'll just say 10 plus years because I feel better about that. I didn't start out wanting to be in HR. Career paths are not always linear, which is okay. And we learn about in this series. I actually went to school for Italian and linguistics. My master's degree is in linguistics, and then started in recruiting. After that, I continued to take on more and more positions with more responsibility, not just in the US, but globally as well, rapidly growing organizations as well as creating the HR functions. I'm a big fan of transparency, kindness, a sense of humor. And I think a lot of the success I found in HR have been a direct result of curiosity and care for people and really genuine relationships, which is something that we will absolutely touch on today when we talk about the power of networking. I've since switched over from corporate America to helping smaller and growing organizations like Metronet make sure that they have what they need to build sustainable people-focused systems, policies, things like that, empower managers to lead, as well as ensure compliance, the really exciting, sexy, fun stuff that no one likes to do. So outside of work, you'll find me traveling and petting a lot of dogs. I really like dogs. In terms of showing up authentically, you can see me here in my blazer because that's one aspect and one side of me, but also here is me with an armful of jungle puppies. So as we go through our session today and our sessions in general, please feel free to show up as you are because that's really important. I'm excited to have these conversations because I feel like Anne and we've talked about this a lot of times. And we've really bonded over being a matchmaker for resources. And so I view librarians' role as that, as well as human resources. So helping people get what they need, facilitating conversations, looking at strengths that they can leverage into success. And my philosophy in HR and in life is what's good for people is good for business or organizations if you are a nonprofit. So jobs change people's lives, and so happy to talk about what that looks like and how you can do that a little bit better. All right, so now that I've droned on about me, and I've told you things that maybe you didn't want to know, like my love for puppy jungle Mexican jungle puppies, but they don't have to be. Um, I want to learn more about the group here. So I'll ask you to put it in the chat if you don't have the ability to come off mute and camera, but we will go one by one. And if you could please share your name, your current role, if you have one, career breaks are good too, where you're coming from, because we know not everyone is showing up from Minnesota. And then also, what would make you feel more comfortable networking? And how can that session help with that? So, um, if we could get someone to be brave and come off mute first to share and introduce themselves, that would be wonderful.
Remember, we don't hesitate to call on people,
We
particularly
will.
those we know, Ann Casty.
Hi, I was just going to unmute.
I know you were.
Hi, I'm Ann Casty. I am an outreach and instruction librarian at Minitex. I what would make me feel more comfortable networking? I think it's what I was thinking when I saw this question was mentorship. I think that maybe I'm seeking some kind of mentorship with networking instead of just getting to know people and in the library community, because I feel like in my role, I'm really lucky that I get to network with a lot of people just because I like them and it's social, but I never really have a career purpose for that. And I feel like maybe mentorship is something that maybe I should be seeking, if that makes sense. Okay.
That makes a lot of sense. And when you say mentorship, are you looking to find a mentor or are you looking to be a mentor or both?
Um, well, mostly find one. I don't view myself as any mentor for anyone, but yeah, definitely find a mentor.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing. And again, great wallpaper. Okay. Erin, so great to see you. Do you mind coming off mute? Are you able to?
He
Not
can.
right now. Okay. And then
She
Sonia,
put some
Kira,
stuff.
Maria. Okay.
We've got some
So
stuff in chat.
great. Stephanie, do you want to read them or would you like me to read them?
Sure. Let's see. Let's go to the top. Kira is a library assistant at Anderson University and a Learning Commons representative at Tri-County Technical College in Anderson, South Carolina. Currently working towards an MLIS and interested in learning how to navigate through imposter syndrome in networking and what it looks like early career. And then let's see, Erin is library assistant with the Minnesota Legislative Reference Library and would love to know more about expectations for cold emailing and messaging. And then we have Maria, a community outreach manager at University of Vermont. I network a lot, but identifying good leads versus just making contacts would be beneficial to me.
Okay, great. Well, some of that we will absolutely get into. And then if we don't, we can always again plan future sessions, or we can add in some time when we have time for discussion later. And I saw you go off mute. You looked like you had something to add to that.
I was just double checking the chat.
Okay, great. Okay, so these sessions are designed to work like a series of a book. So while each session hopefully is standalone good, there will be recurring themes. We will build off of each other and connection between them. So you'll hear me even today reference previous sessions that we've done and activities in those. We took a break for December and then we resumed last month in January. And really, these sessions are designed to be a spark for meaningful conversation rather than a lecture. That's why we ask for introductions. We'll ask for engagement throughout. Please feel free. Please feel free and very comfortable interrupting me at any time, putting it in the chat, coming off mute, because we do use this feedback to incorporate into future sessions and create new programming. This week, as you know, bookmarked for success. We're doing professional networking strategies. Our first session back in January, we did bookending the interview, decoding what comes next. Last week, we had some excellent guest presenters from Career One Stop and Minnesota Deed, where they talked about researching your options, explore careers for librarians. And then in 2 weeks from now, we have a session designed specifically for managers on how to create effective job postings. Okay, so previously, as we discussed on next chapter, particularly revisiting those from November that we did, session 1, cataloging yourself. We'll talk about this in a minute again, but we did an activity to be able to think critically and articulate your skills, experience, values, and priorities, as well as personal characteristics, because that is the first step of any job search and something that we come back to in every single session. It is foundational, and we highly recommend that you do that activity if you haven't already, but more on that in a minute. Session 2, we did circulating connections, LinkedIn, and public presence. So this session focused on how to stand out, how to combine networking, which we'll talk about today, volunteering, and exploration of opportunities beyond your comfort zone. Session 3, right on track, resumes and cover letters. So in this session, we talked about practical tips. We had specific resume templates. We had an interactive resume review and edit in that session, which we got good feedback on. And then session 4 on the record, interviews, do's and don'ts. We talked about all of the interview, everything. So what to prepare for, what to ask, how to show up, again, to put your best foot forward. So every single session is recorded. Today's is being recorded as well, so that you can rewatch them as well as gain some of those, rewatch them and gain and record some of those questions and templates that we put together. So those are available. Stephanie put the link in here, and she's also putting it in the chat. Okay, so last session, I mentioned we had great guest speakers from Minnesota Deed and Career One Stop. And our takeaways were really about the tools and the market information that they shared with us. So particularly with Career One Stop, they talked about skills finders, how to match your skill sets with careers and opportunities. There is a job search function, so employers can post open jobs on Career One Stop. As well. Career One Stop, it's worth mentioning, is nationwide in the United States. So for those of us who are joining us today outside of Minnesota, that is available to everyone in the US, not just in the Minnesota area. And then we did have Minnesota D Department of Economic, and can you help me out? Of Education and
Department
Economic
of
Development.
Economic and Employment.
Employment. Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Minnesota Deed, for being so great. They were able to show us about a Minnesota cost of living calculator. Again, for Minnesota, your state might have that on their website available, as well as surveys that show job growth, job projections, unemployment rates, things like that. So a lot of helpful information from last session. And as always, highly recommend that you review that to get in on it.
Career One Stop is a good source that if you haven't done the activity from session 1 about cataloging yourself, because there are skills finders and other tools on there that give you the opportunity to look at yourself a little differently. Career One Stop is U.S. Department of Labor, but it's operated by Deed under a contract.
Okay. So as Anne said, if you haven't done activity 1, it is foundational. And so we're going to review what that is. And if you haven't done it, highly recommend that you do it with or without the help of Career One Stop, but that definitely makes it a little bit easier. So this can be the hardest step in finding a job or thinking about the job search process. In order to answer interview questions, in order to put your best foot forward and to really know what you're looking for and get the right job that's right for you, you need to take a good look inward. And so showing up and answering questions with that that maybe that interviewers want to hear might get you a job, but not necessarily the job that you want or the job that you like, which is so important. So Erin, I know, was with us on session one. She has done this activity, but for those of you who haven't, we absolutely want to give credit where credit is due. This activity was adapted from Molly Trigulis. She's a former corporate lawyer and executive turned facilitator, coach, speaker on a mission to fix the corporate world. I highly recommend that you follow her on Instagram or other social platforms because she is a wealth of good information, advice, particularly someone mentioned getting over imposter syndrome. She talks about a lot about that too. So a good resource for that. But the activity that we did was take a blank sheet, either paper or digital. We want to be inclusive these days. People have different methods, and create 4 different sections. So on those, there's skills, experience, values and priorities, and personal characteristics. And then we asked everyone to write down minimum of 7 things in each of that section that are true for you to be able to articulate what makes you you, what makes you unique, because those are the things that are going to help get you hired. And not just, again, hired, but hired into a job that is meaningful and a good match for all of those things, for your skills, for your experience, for your values and priorities, as well as personal characteristics. Okay. So the main event today, networking, it doesn't have to feel icky. Most people, not most people, but many people cringe, absolute cringe at the idea of having to network. And honestly, that's really fair. The idea of walking into an event that's completely full of strangers, people you don't know, and then having to make small talk and throw your business card at them sounds really awful, right? It sounds awful. It sounds scary. And I don't want to do that. But there are ways to make it a little bit easier. And part of that, beyond helpful tips and tricks, is the mindset about really what networking is. So let's talk about that here. Let's break it down. Really, when you think about networking, it's an opportunity to cultivate connections and build genuine and authentic relationships that is mutually beneficial, right? Because there is that aspect of giving and getting, sharing advice, talking, being able to support each other, discuss opportunities, and all of that connection is through common interests, values, and priorities. There's those words again showing up from session one. I do want to call attention to the graphic here of the poor little guy crying in the corner because he thinks that networking feels really icky and he doesn't know how to enter the group. So we'll talk about that in a minute as well. But hopefully after this session, you won't feel like that guy in the corner with tears in your eyes. Okay, so networking. You're here, which is a great first step. What is the point? What are we doing? Why are we doing this? Do I have to do it? And the answer is no, but if you're here, it means that you probably want to and you see some value in that. And again, networking is about relationships. You're building trust and you're not just collecting contacts or asking for handouts, asking for help. Which leads us into the second point that it's mutually beneficial. It should be reciprocated. You're sharing ideas, advice, support, you're helping others. You're also open to and happy receiving as well. Sometimes it can be more comfortable to give, but learning how to receive is also a really important skill. Networking is long-term strategy. So it's not one time, you don't go to an event and again, throw your business card at someone and walk away and then expect that that's going to produce results. It's relationships that you have to continue to nurture and grow and maintain over time. But the positive about networking is that it provides a lot of opportunities. So a lot of times there are going to be jobs that aren't posted yet. Maybe a department is thinking about adding something, but they haven't made it official. They haven't put it on paper. They haven't posted it. And so if someone in your network knows about your skill set, they know about your experience, your values, priorities, all of those things, you have mutual interests and connection points, they'll be able to bring up your name in a room full of opportunities. Not only that, but they'll be able to give you insight into what this career is or isn't. Maybe they've been where you're going and are able to advise you or help guide you down a path that is similar to theirs or different in order to avoid some pitfalls or obstacles. Mentorship, as Anne brought up here, also a really important aspect of networking, as well as, again, sharing valuable information, learnings, things like that. Okay, so anyone who's showed up to our sessions before know that I love a good meme. I shared with you earlier. I also really love a good sense of humor, and also sweet, sweet Catherine O'Hara. You will be missed. Did anyone here watch Schitt's Creek? Yeah. Do you remember this episode where she's like at a raging party? Yeah. And she's networking. Yeah, Maria, very sad. Comedic genius. Okay. So let's talk about we talked about what networking is. What's the point? But again, it's not just walking into a room full of strangers. Networking can look a lot of different ways for different people. And we know that people have different strengths and different preferences. And so we want to hit them all so that it's hopefully something more approachable for everyone given those preferences. So many opportunities connect more than handshakes and business cards. But if you are going to give a handshake, make sure it's firm, look them in the eye, all of that good stuff, right? So you don't have to start from zero. I
Sorry,
think
give me 1 second.
okay.
Uh,
What happened?
it just says my screen sharing is paused.
Oh, oh, we saw your screen.
Yeah, we did.
Okay. It wasn't showing on my side.
Okay, we could
So now
see, and we could
I
see a
canceled it.
change.
Uh,
It's okay. Take a deep breath, Stephanie. We're all friends here.
Technology is our friend.
And technology
Zoom.
is our friend, and sometimes friend relationships can be challenging, just like technology.
Okay, are we back?
We're back.
Okay.
We're back and better than ever.
And on the right slide.
And on the right slide. So definitely counts for something. Okay. So again, getting back to it, you don't have to start from zero. You already have a network, right? But I think people don't necessarily think about it that way. Everyone you've already worked with, people that you know, it could be your neighbor. Everybody knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, right? And so leveraging those connections you already have is a really good way to start. So make a list of all of those people you've worked with, the ones that you have a decent relationship with, right? We all know that there's some people we've worked with in the past that we never want to speak to again. There's some people in our past that we would love to speak to again, and some people in our past that we had a decent working relationship with, but it's been a while, right? So make a list of all of those people, as well as people that you know, your neighbors, people that you go to community events with, hobbies, sports, church, whatever it could be. And so make a list of people, right? And then reach out to them. It's a lot of people are really willing to catch up. Like, how many times has someone reached out to you wanting to catch up and you're like, oh, it's so good to hear from you, right? So again, mutually beneficial, makes them feel good that you're thinking about them, and also can lead to opportunities and interesting conversations with them as well. So reach out to catch up, ask what's going on in their life, what's new, where are you at now, where are you working, how has that been, share where you're at. And then again, cultivating that connection, talking about what's new, catching up. It's also very reasonable, since you're sharing what's going on with you and maybe what you're looking to do, that they'll be able to connect you to someone else. And so it's perfectly reasonable to ask them, hey, is there anyone else that you think that I should meet that we'd be able to have an interesting conversation or might be able to guide me in the right direction regarding XYZ? And then cultivating new connections in community can look a lot of different ways. It's definitely not a one size fits all situation. So we put together a list of different options that might fit your preferences and comfort level a little bit differently. So events, of course, there are a million networking events. And so those are always a good option, right? Particularly if everyone is showing up to the same event. Everyone has the same goal in mind, and the point is to meet people. Another one is conferences and training. I really like these as opportunities for networking and connection because there's less pressure. And there's less pressure because the focus is on whatever that event or conference or training is. There's that focus on learning and the shared interests. So you already have that as a springboard to talk about and an easy place to connect and build on that. Associations and committees are always really good opportunities. Examples of that are ALA, MLA, as well as I know there are a lot of divisions, a lot of roundtables, things like that within ALA, MLA, and other similar organizations across the country. Volunteering is a wonderful thing to do to give back to the community, but also as a point of connection. So there are examples like Teen Lit Con. If you're in Minnesota, please volunteer for Teen Lit Con. It makes a difference. Was that a good plug, Anne? Great. Volunteer for Teen Lit Con. It's the best. The volunteer organizers are really wonderful too. So Teen Lit Con, I've said it 4 times, maybe 5, but it's great. Do that. And then conference planning. So whether it's that or another conference, but I think it's really important to bring up the fact that don't limit yourself to only library events. And you came off mute. What do you have to share with the group?
I was just going to say Teen LitCon, but you said it so many times.
Why not throw it in one more time, right? Teen LitCon forever. So again, don't limit yourself to only library events. There's a lot of different types of events that you can volunteer for that would add to your resume. This is something that Anne and I talked about when we were putting together and envisioning Stephanie's role or the programming librarian role that Stephanie is in. And one of the things that we were looking at was legislative involvement, awareness, things like that. And so volunteering for things that are outside of libraries might not be directly related, but they do add to your resume and they can help, you can leverage that experience and awareness into different jobs. And do you have anything more to say about that?
I just think volunteering is an important part of one, as you said, giving back to the community, but it also gives you a chance to develop skills that you might not develop in your position in a library or wherever you are now. I mean, I think, canvassing for a political candidate, if you're the type who likes to door knock, that's definitely an entree into networking because you are meeting strangers every 10 minutes as you're going from door to door in the neighborhood. And you learn how to introduce yourself and how to introduce what you're there to talk about. So I think that's an important one. And there are lots of other opportunities. I volunteer. I'm a recycling ambassador, which basically means you're at events sorting trash, but you meet a lot of interesting people when you're sorting trash. So I just think, look beyond our library world into your community to see one where you can meet a lot of interesting people, but also develop those skills that make you a successful employee.
Totally. Well, and also I said it already, but everybody knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. And so you might meet someone at an event sorting trash, but they're going to know someone who works in the industry or the organization that you're trying to get into, right? And so it's really, you never know where life is going to go or who someone might be able to introduce you to. And so again, those genuine connections, even if they're not necessarily working in a library themselves, doesn't mean that they don't have valuable things to share with you that you can learn or people that they can introduce you to. LinkedIn, we had a session specifically about LinkedIn and how to show up on LinkedIn, how to use it. But that's a really good place to connect with people if you prefer virtually rather than in person. Groups and online forums. So MetroNet's Library Leadership Forum is an option. There's a lot of different networking groups specifically thinking about the Minneapolis area. There's like young professionals networking groups. There's other networking groups that have specific things that they talk about or a certain demographic, but they are specifically dedicated to networking. That is the whole point of the group, from a lot of different professions. Um, and those can be, again, either in person or online. So it can be as easy as typing in networking groups and opportunities in XYZ city, and a bunch of different options are going to come up. And so ask your connections to grab a coffee or to attend a talk because you're like, I don't know what I'm going to talk to them about, like this random coffee that we grab and we haven't worked together in 4 years. You can say, there's this cool thing that's coming up. Do you want to go with me? Right. And if you go with a friend or a connection, that might make it easier to talk to people at the group. And we'll get into wingmen and wingwomen in a different slide. But before we go to a different slide, what other things can people think about, or what would be a practical application to some of these ideas? If you could either come off mute or put it into the chat, that's again one of the things that we love about these sessions is being able to all bring our ideas and learn from each other. So what kind of opportunity do you see for networking that we've talked about or that we haven't talked about? Please share with the group. And since you're off mute, I'm going to call on you to go first.
Wow, okay. I think there's lots of opportunities to connect. As we said, beyond the library. One of the things that's happened to me as far as volunteering and sorting trash is you meet other people and they'll say, oh, well, my sister's a librarian or my son wants to become a librarian. Can they come talk to you? Absolutely. And that broadens your own network, but it also helps you be the network person because I think we all have that obligation too, to help other people advance their careers, even if we think we're the, lowest person in our organization, we still have knowledge that we can share. So I think, just keep in mind that, as Kelsey said earlier, it is a two-way street. It doesn't always have to be about you or about me in particular. So I think one of the other things to do is to keep aware of programs that organizations offer. MILE, MLA Leadership Institute, which is on hiatus here for a while. But from Ann Cassie's standpoint, that's a great place to find a mentor because everyone's assigned a mentor, and you either can be a mentor or join that MILE cohort and learn various things that way.
A couple
So,
of things in the chat. Conferences and volunteering is being seconded. And on LinkedIn, a Minnesota Women's Tech Interest Group. And that has been very informational. One thing that I just thought of that I didn't think of when we were discussing this was like joining boards. And I would feel imposter syndrome for that for sure. Joining like it doesn't even have to be a library board, but I think boards are a pretty good opportunity to network with other organizations and other people on the board.
Absolutely. Great opportunity. I do love that Heather called out the LinkedIn groups because there is a LinkedIn group for almost every single thing that you could possibly want to learn and every industry that there is. And so that is a place that I found has been really helpful, really informational, not only in learning about whatever industry or topic you're interested in, but a lot of HR people and recruiters will post jobs in those different groups. And so that's a really good opportunity to network and keep your eye on what's happening in the industry, in the community. So thank you for sharing that, Heather. Anyone else have any ideas or things that they could think of how they could apply any of these opportunities for networking?
We encourage everybody to come to the Library Leadership Forum that Metronet sponsors. It meets once a month on various topics. We call it Leadership Forum. You don't have to be a defined leader, anybody who's interested in those conversations. We have two facilitators and they choose the topics and the readings, and everybody's welcome. Metronet sponsors it, but we're happy to have people from around Minnesota or elsewhere join that conversation because that is a way to make some connections. They had their October meeting at the Minnesota Library Association conference, and it had a great turnout. And I think a lot of connections were made as a result of that. So those kinds of things really, you think, oh, it's just online, nobody's going to know who I am. But I do think those connections do develop over time and are worth the hour or so that you devote to that once a month. It is all about time, and just remember that you're giving yourself this gift of time. You're giving the gift of time to develop yourself in lots of different ways. And if you think, oh, I'm too busy, I have all these other things, I have to walk my dog, I have to cook dinner. You still need to take that time for professional development. And it doesn't have to be, going to a webinar twice a month. We want you to come, but it is just those other things that happen too. Even your book clubs. If you're in a book club, I think everything is I guess it comes down to everything is an opportunity to network. And I think everything is an opportunity to learn how to network. And sometimes it's easier when the stakes are lower, when you're not thinking it's a career development opportunity. It's just an opportunity to learn how to talk to strangers. And if you do canvassing, you also learn that when people slam their door in your face, it's not necessarily personal. So you can kind of keep that in mind too, as if somebody you reach out to doesn't connect back with you, don't take it personally. There's lots of reasons for that to happen.
Great. Does this list here and the things that people have added to the list of ideas, do these things make it feel, is there at least one thing on there that feels approachable for you as a group or you as an individual, I should say? Does it help you think about what is networking a little bit different and hopefully it's a little less scary?
Hope
Cool.
so.
Good. Okay. Okay, Kira says conferences feel approachable since I can attend with coworkers. Yes, great. And getting onto this next slide, we're going to talk about leveraging that wing woman, that wing man, that wing person. Okay, and Anne says yes, she needs to sign up for LLF. What's LLF? So many library acronyms I've done a good job to learn, but I don't know that
Library
one.
Leadership Forum.
Oh, okay, well that makes sense. Metronet's Library Leadership Forum. Great. Yeah, sign up for that too and volunteer for Team LitCon. Okay, so this is a slide Anne particularly wanted to put in here because entering a group that is the thing that can feel really scary and can feel icky. And that's why that guy was crying in the corner on the first slide, or well, one of the first slides, right? So here are some tips and tricks to make that hopefully a little bit easier, to make it a little bit more approachable. Number one is read body language, right? Look for open groups. And when I say open groups, people that aren't huddled together, right? They might be standing in a half circle, a semicircle. They might be in a weird line, but they're signaling that they're open to other people being there. That's also an opportunity for you to be thinking about when you are in a group at an event to make sure that you're leaving your group in a way that seems and feels approachable, maybe a semicircle rather than a close-knit little group. They're signaling again that they're open and wanting new people to join the conversation. Smile, make eye contact, and and hold yourself up high, right? Confident posture, appear open, because you have a lot to add to the group. Um, and so you should go in feeling confident about that. It doesn't matter what your job title is, what level you're at, if you're in between jobs, every person has a lot of value and something that you can teach and also share. So be confident in that. As we've mentioned already, leverage a wingman, a wingwoman. This is not just for dating, though showing up to a networking event can kind of feel like a blind date or a double date, right? Like nerve-wracking, but easier when you have someone doing it with you. It's a lot easier also to approach a group as a pair, feels less intimidating. And someone said that in the chat as well. So bring someone with you. Drag them along, tell them it's good for them because it is. Be honest and direct. It's totally acceptable and it's easier to say, I don't know a lot of people here. Do you mind if I join your group? I'm feeling a little nervous about that. And a lot of people are in that same boat, right? And they're going to say, of course you can. They're going to be more welcoming when you show vulnerability, as well as saying, I don't know a lot of people here. Being really open and direct about it is going to create opportunities for some conversations, of course, but they might say, oh, let me introduce you to Anne. Let me introduce you to Stephanie. But just stating it plainly is a really good way to get them to bring you in as well as introduce you to other people to help make you feel more comfortable. So again, being reciprocal, think about that as well. When you are networking and you know a bunch of people and you see someone who might be on their own, hopefully not crying in the corner, if they are, offer them a tissue, but then offer to bring them into your group. That goes to the last point, create your own group, but introduce them to other people as well. So it is definitely a give and receive reciprocal situation. Manage your anxiety. If you feel nervous, take some deep breaths. And again, a lot of people there are probably feeling the same thing because this isn't something that is comfortable for a lot of people. And again, if you name that feeling, it will hopefully reduce it a little bit, but is creating opportunity for a conversation, or it's a springboard for a conversation from a point of a shared experience. So again, be open and honest, just name it, and create your own group, right? So if you want to have a friend, you got to be a friend. So you can approach people who seem to be on their own, draw them into your conversation. Definitely a possibility. Heather says, pay it forward. I try to introduce people to each other. Love that. Lots of introverts in libraries. I think that's a good point. But once we get to know each other, it's just great. Wonderful. Heather also says, reading the chat, she likes having a wingman. Yeah, me too. She did go to ALA in Chicago a couple of years ago and walked up to a group of people at an alumni event and just said, I know nobody. Can I hang out here? Oh, I love that. What a good, everyone write that down, right? I know nobody. Can I hang out here? People are going to say yes. And she made a great friend there that she still talks to online all the time. Scary, but did it. Incredible. Yeah. These are all really good practical tips. Does anyone else have any others?
I like the alumni group too. I think that's a good way because you do have some things in common automatically by, whether it's undergraduate, graduate, whatever, you have those experiences to share, which makes things easier to talk to. But yeah, I think just going up and saying what Heather did, I don't know anybody, help me out here. Most people are open, you know. When I first moved to Minnesota, and moved to St. Paul in particular, you realize that everybody still hangs out with who they went to kindergarten with. And if you didn't go to kindergarten in St. Paul, you're kind of on your own. And, you welcome those invitations because, it's like I said to my husband, these people don't need us, but we need them. So we do have to make more of an effort. And it's not easy, even in your own neighborhood, but it pays off in the long run. So I do think you do have to learn how to enter a group. Or create your own group so other people want to join you.
Or create your own group. I do want to, Erin at the beginning talked about expectations for cold emailing or messaging, and the alumni portion really stood out to me. And I think that that's a great opportunity. If you are cold emailing or cold messaging someone, starting off with a point of shared interest or connection, whatever it might be, of course, is great. But being an alumni of the same institution can really go a long way in opening up that door for conversation. So I've messaged many of people saying, "Oh, you went to Tulane, me too. Remember XYZ?" I'm not going to share the things about there, but not going to talk about the bar on campus, right? But those are really good conversation starters to message another alumni and have a good point of shared connection when you are reaching out cold. So I'm really glad that that we brought up the thing about alumni that Heather did. Okay. Heather also says in the chat, hey, if nobody talked to me, they had free snacks and beverages. I love this. Look on the bright side. I figured even if it was a bust, I would have something fun to do for a bit. It turned out fabulous. Wonderful. Yeah. Lots of things to be gained from events. Okay, so
Even if it doesn't turn out the same way, Heather's got the right idea. Food, snacks, casual conversation, not bad for an hour or so. You've gained something.
not bad at all. Okay, so we're feeling a little more potentially relaxed, a little more comfortable with the idea of what constitutes for a networking event. But how do we prepare? What's going to make us feel even more comfortable going? So tip number one is know your audience and your goal. What type of people do you think will be at that event? Is an event of librarians? Is an event of government employees? Who's it going to be? Is your goal potentially, I want to connect to 5 people, or maybe I want to have just one really deep conversation with one person and walk away with a potential follow-up conversation with that one person? Knowing what you're there to do, and who ideally you would like to meet or get out of it can be really helpful in making sure that you're putting together a plan for your time there. And plans always make me feel a little bit more comfortable. I don't know about you. Clothing and hygiene. So wear something appropriate and polished, right? But comfortable, because you're not going to feel confident if you are wearing some pants that are too tight or too loose and you're adjusting them or you're pulling them up, or your high heels are really uncomfortable and also don't feel authentic to you. You're going to be focused on adjusting your clothing or your comfort rather than on the connections and the conversations that you're having. We say dress for an important event. So that doesn't mean that you have to wear a suit, right? Or a tie or a dress or whatever. No ball gowns needed unless you're going to a ball, right? But dress like it matters because there are first impressions and people are going to remember that about you. And Stephanie, I thought that you had a point about that. No? Okay. So dress for an important event, show up clean and presentable. Also, clean, emphasis on clean, right? Like if you show up and you're a little bit smelly, people aren't going to remember what you said or what you're interested in. They're just going to remember that you're like kind of smelly. And that doesn't just mean body odor. It could also be really strong perfume, right? Or if you cooked a bunch of garlic and onion before your networking event, just show up clean and neutral, right? Um, Also prepare a 30-second about you highlight, right? It can be a little bit less than 30 seconds. It doesn't have to be super long. A really good reference, and we went over it from activity one, reference that activity, right? You'll be able to talk about your skills, your experiences, your priorities, values, your personal characteristics. We also talked about it in the resume session or the interview session about like, tell me about yourself. In the resume session, we had the professional summary at the top that you could also draw from. But tailoring these different things to the environment and your goal of that event is also really important. And so definitely take some time to prepare about you. I don't necessarily want to call it an elevator pitch because we're not pitching people right away. we're just introducing ourselves. But knowing how you want to talk about yourself and what's important to you in those areas of connection, having that planned out can make it feel easier to connect with people in these events. So listen actively, get to know who you're talking to. You should be hopefully listening more than you are talking. Make eye contact, nod your head, show that you are actively listening and that you do care and you're interested. It goes a long way. Be curious. So focus on learning about them rather than pitching yourself. We're not pitching, we're learning, we're connecting. Going a step further than that, ask open-ended questions. So follow up on their answers to deepen the conversation. If you ask questions that are a yes, no, it's not going to be a conversation. It's going to be an interrogation, right? And no one wants to be interrogated ever. Offer value. If they're talking about what's important to them or what they're working on or where they might have a current challenge, and you know someone that you can introduce them to that could help out with that challenge or that has a lot of information, or you recently read an article that addresses the exact thing that they're talking about, not only can you talk about that and have that point as of connection, but you can also send it to them later. But whatever you can do to help. Again, you gotta be a friend to make, what's the saying? If you wanna have a friend, you gotta be a friend. So, quality over quantity. It is a lot easier to make meaningful connections in smaller groups or in one-on-one conversations. So keep that in mind. Just because you didn't meet 5 people at an event doesn't mean that it was a failure. If, again, you had a really meaningful, deep one-on-one conversation that you will keep up with over time. Business cards. So this is something that I think it's important to address because they are not as common now as they were previously. So I think it's important to note that business cards are unnecessary if you have a cell phone and a LinkedIn profile, which a lot of people do. You can just pull it up on your phone and connect right there. And if you attended or rewatched a LinkedIn session, you're going to feel more confident about your LinkedIn profile. And so business cards are unnecessary if you want to be sustainable or you don't want to carry around cards, you might lose them. However, business cards can also be a really good place to take notes on the people that you connected with. So our next point is taking notes, right? So remember what they talked about, what you took away from that conversation. And so if you don't have a business card, that's a good place to write it down on to remind you of what you talked about with that person. But if you don't have that, you'll want to take notes on that right after the event so you're not forgetting about what you talked about, what was important to them, so that when you follow up later, you know what to mention. But it is fairly common for people, because I know that not everyone has business cards from their work, but that doesn't mean you can't make your own. They're fairly inexpensive. This is something I know Anne does. They're fairly inexpensive to make. And so you can put whatever you want on there, your name and how you like to be contacted, whether that's an email, your telephone number, your social media, whatever that is. But if you feel more comfortable handing out a physical card, that's always an option. And then, as always, I talk about this all the time, be authentic, be yourself, because you want to attract people in your network based on genuine interests, because they're going to go a lot further and you're going to like who you end up being connected with a lot more if you're able to be yourself. Not only that, but being yourself gives people the confidence and the permission to show up as themselves as well. Okay, so Heather, again, Heather, love the participation. Thank you. Heather says, I think people are more open to you if you look nice. I don't ever wear heels because I feel awkward and uncomfortable. Sometimes I wear stuff that people can comment on, a cat bracelet, have a purse decoration so they can see it and say, hey, I love cats too. It's low-hanging fruit on chatting, but better than talking about the weather. Wonderful point. I love that so much. And that's also a good point about a conversation starter, is making a comment about something cool or interesting that they're wearing, or their glasses, or something like that. Much better than the weather. However, if we are in Minnesota, I feel like talking about the weather, because it's so up and down, is almost obligatory. Okay. Anne, what do you have to add to that?
No, I was just laughing about the weather comment because that's the same thing that came to mind. If Heather lived in Minnesota, she would know that that everyone we talk about the weather all the time because what is it going to be 45 today, which is, 45 above when 2 weeks ago was 45 below. We spend a lot of time talking about the weather, but
Yeah, or
that's
how was your
that's
commute
just an
in because it's snowing?
introductory.
Oh,
I
sorry,
like
Anne.
the idea of, having that this is so Vermont, right, Maria? Same there. Um, oh, blizzard. Interesting. So weather is a topic everywhere. But no, I like the idea, wearing your cat bracelet or an interesting piece of jewelry, maybe you're a hat wearer sort of thing. All those things that one make you stand out. I would remember somebody who had an interesting hat at a networking event, and would be inclined to, I'm a hat maker, so that would give me something to talk about. So whatever you can do to make you feel more comfortable, um, is the way to go.
Okay.
I do have business cards that have my MetroNet business cards, but I also have other business cards that just have my name and email and phone number, my cell phone number on them that I can use at other events when I'm volunteering or doing whatever and I want to keep in touch with someone rather than, making people remember my email address.
Yeah. There's
And they're
multiple
cheap.
different ways, multiple options. So we put together some networking questions that, again, follow some of those guidelines that we talked about that are hopefully going to produce some more interesting conversations to be used as springboards that can create opportunity for deeper conversations or asking open-ended questions rather than yes, no. Um, so let's talk through these a little bit. We have these, and then we have another slide that are a little bit different and feel a little bit um, that are a little bit different and aren't just focused on your current job or career, because again, careers are not always linear, straight paths. And there are things like career gaps, which is totally fine. And so, and also that not everyone always wants to talk about their job. Sometimes they want to talk about some things that are more fun, and you can connect on those too. So let's go through these, and then we'll go through those in a minute. So feel free to either write these down, take a screenshot, but again, these will be up later, published on our YouTube channel and on the website. So, what do you think you need to take your career to the next level? This is a bonus two-part because if there's something in mind that you might be able to help them with, offer that. So this is a good thing to be able to, good opportunity to be able to give to them, whether that's an idea, a resource, an introduction, something like that. What inspired you to get into libraries, or what inspired you to get into the work that you're currently doing? I like this one. I think it's really interesting, particularly because a lot of people don't have linear career paths. I definitely did not plan on being in HR, and here I am over 10 years later and have found a lot of fulfillment and joy in it. Um, so that's a good way to open the conversation. What, in your opinion, is the most exciting trend in libraries or whatever industry that you're in or talking about? What is the biggest misconception people have about your role? Even though you are a programming librarian, what do you consider to be your expertise? And is that because of training, real life experience, or a combination of both? What's the best piece of advice you've ever received to apply to your career? What's the worst advice you've ever received? Um, that those responses can get really interesting really fast. When you were little, what did you want to be when you grew up? And what skills from those aspirations apply to what you do now? So, what do people think about these questions? Can you think of any others that we could add to the group? Okay, and Heather says, reading these, I almost started answering your questions here in the chat. They are good questions. Okay, I love that, Heather, because that brings me to a really good point is that when you have these questions prepared or you have them in your head, you can even bring them with you if you're really nervous, bring them written down on a little card or a piece of paper or your phone, right? Just to remind you of and reference. But if you're going to ask these questions, you do need to be prepared to answer them as well. So, does anyone have any other go-to networking questions? No? Okay. Well, then let's talk about some more unique, unconventional, or engaging questions, because again, not everyone wants to talk about work, and maybe it's more appropriate, given the event that you're at, that you talk about people rather than people as professionals. Um, how has your idea of success, both personal and professional, changed since you were younger? I like that question a lot, a lot, a lot, because for me, it has changed significantly, both personally and professionally. And so thinking about that, reflecting on that, um, can really create meaningful conversation. I included it on this slide again, but what can be the biggest misconception people have about your role? I always like that one too. When people think about HR, they think about Phyllis sitting behind her desk, scowling and writing people up, right? And that's not how I work. Of course, performance management and documentation is part of my role, but that is a very small part of my role and not how I like to spend most of my time. Because like I said, my philosophy is much more what's good for people is good for business. So being able to advocate equally for employees as well as the health of the organization and find that bridge and mutual success is really important to me. But um, I definitely don't think I'm scowling Phyllis behind a desk doing write-ups. And so that's a big misconception that people have about my role. What is the best trip you've ever taken? For those of us that like to travel, this is a fun one to talk about. And again, if you like to travel, creates a lot of opportunity for further conversation as well as follow-up, right? To say, let me send you this really cool restaurant or sightseeing thing or tour that I had when I went to that place because you're going to that place. That's a really good one to get people talking. Do you have a morning ritual? This is something that varies person by person. Some people are up at 5 a.m. and working out and eating a very specific breakfast. Some people are rolling out of bed at the very last minute possible to get to where they're going on time, right? So that's an interesting talking point. If you were to give a class or be featured on a podcast, what would you talk about? What would be the required reading? I added the required reading because this is a library setting after all. And then if you could be anywhere in the world but here right now, because networking is awkward and we all feel uncomfortable, except for not because we feel much more comfortable after this session, where would that be and why? Um, okay.
Where would it be?
All right. So we have some more activity in the chat. Oh, I'm so grateful for your engagement today. Okay, Heather says, what is the most fun thing you are doing or most proud of in your library this year? Love that question. Love, love, love that question. Kira says, these are great because I think there's a low barrier to answering these. Even as I am new to the profession, I feel like I could give a good answer. Wonderful. You're able to connect as real humans, right? And not just as professionals. And that's where the best relationships start. Okay, the podcast one is interesting. If you had to do an hour-long podcast without any prep, what would you talk about? And Kira agrees. Great, great one. That is interesting. Does anyone have an answer? Does anyone want to answer any of these questions? No? Okay. Well, you can think about you can noodle on it after our call and bring those to your next networking opportunity or event. Okay. So, LinkedIn connections, how do you follow up after meeting someone at an event, either online or in person or at a conference, at a training, etc.? So, send a personalized LinkedIn follow-up within 24 to 48 hours of meeting. That can either be a connection request if you didn't already connect with them in that moment, or it can be a message or an email, right? Mentioning a specific topic that you talked about to be able to spark that memory so that they remember who you are, as well as continue the conversation. I always keep the message concise. Thank you for that. Thank you for their time. And if it makes sense, suggest a follow-up. As we talked about this before, avoid immediate sales pitches or asking for favors. Really focus on mutual understanding and building the relationship. Yeah, you want to have a genuine relationship built on trust before you are asking for things. Definitely try to give before you're looking to get. Okay, so key tips for LinkedIn follow-ups: be specific, reference a particular conversation, insight, or moment. Keep it concise, get straight to the point, short and sweet is good. Connect promptly. We talked about this 24 to 48 hours while the conversation is still fresh. This is a little bit different than when we talked about a follow-up or a thank you note from an interview. And I'm suggesting a quicker follow-up here after a networking event, because the thing about interviews is that because they're considering you, they have a reason that they should follow up with you and that they're considering you so you're fresh in their mind, right? And so that allows for a little bit longer of a window because of that necessity of thinking about you after the interaction. But if you're meeting in a networking or a different situation, there isn't that same courtesy of follow-up and continued thought and consideration. And so make sure that you're following up fairly promptly, and again, with details or a memorable takeaway from your conversation to make sure that they remember who you are and that really good conversation that you had. Add value if you can. Share an article, a resource, or a thought that's relevant to the conversation. Not only is that helpful and you're a giver, but it gives you a reason, a specific reason to follow up, which can make that a little bit more approachable as well. So include an action item. Suggest a low pressure next step. Do you want to grab a coffee? Do you want to chat? Do you just want to stay in touch? Like, what does that look like? But again, low pressure, but creating an opportunity to talk again. Okay, I see some things in the chat. I sometimes send a message, especially if we talked a lot, but sometimes I just send a connection request and I'm okay with not longer conversations online. We are all busy. I don't want people to think I want something from them, just that we are happy helping each other out and staying connected. Heather also says, I know people on LinkedIn looking for work and I see one of my friends there are hiring. I'll forward the job to help them. Absolutely. That's a really good opportunity for follow-up and maintaining that connection and being a friend to other people. Okay, so I created some follow-up templates. We've gotten the feedback from other sessions that people like templates that they can actually take and use and edit to their own voice to these different situations. I do want to call out that, of course, you can use these for LinkedIn, but you can also use them for email or text message or whatever their preferred method of communication is. I think that's a really good thing to ask them is, what do you prefer? How do you want to be contacted? Do you prefer LinkedIn? Do you prefer email? Do you prefer text? Do you prefer carrier pigeon? Like, what does that look like for you? So option one, direct and professional. Hi, name. It was great meeting you at event name. I really enjoyed our conversation about carrier pigeons. I'd love to connect here and keep in touch. Hope to see you at the next one, right? Option two, value add, good for following up later. I was thinking about our conversation regarding XYZ topic and came across this article, podcast resource that reminded me of what you said about whatever it was you were talking about. Hope that you find it useful, interesting, etc., and then include the link. And then a last one for setting up a further conversation or setting up a meeting. Hi, name. I enjoyed meeting you at XYZ event. You're working on some interesting projects. I'm excited to explore how we might collaborate on XYZ topic. Do you have time to connect for 15 minutes next week? So all of these are really low pressure, and they all are basic enough so that you can use them as is, right? You can use these as templates, but you can also really easily edit them and customize them so it feels or sounds more like you, but wanted you to have a starting off point or a jumping off point. Um, and Heather made a good point about people not always being super available or not wanting to have conversations online. Maybe people don't check their LinkedIn all the time. So if someone doesn't get back to you, um, don't take it personally, right? You can try again in a week or two or a different method, or you can see them at the next event because people do, of course, have things happening in their lives that might prevent them from answering, but definitely don't take it personal, but feel free to follow up. Did I miss anything, Anne?
Oh, no, I think it's another way to follow up is to say, oh, I see that this group is meeting again. Do you plan to be there? I have somebody I'd like you to meet, or I'd like to talk about this idea so that you're trying to maintain that connection that way. If you're going to be there, I want to be there kind of thing.
Yeah, I'll see you there.
See you
Let's
there.
see you there. Let's make a plan. Do these follow-up templates feel like something that everyone would actually use? Does it make it a little bit more approachable to send to people afterwards? Great, great, great. Okay, so now taking a look into the future, we've talked about the past, the sessions that we've done before, but there are more of these. We've received feedback, not only that people like templates, but that people have different desk shifts, they have different things going on. And so in order to accommodate those, we are switching up our timing. So we are now doing the series every other Thursday, but we're alternating the time between morning and afternoon so that different people have the opportunity to attend live. So please double check the timing for each week, for each session. And then, as we already talked about, the replays are always available to either like slow down or rewatch or watch for the first time if you're not able to make the live. We are looking at next sessions in the future coming up, looking at for hiring managers writing effective job ads and postings. We're going to be talking about career transitions. We're going to be talking about academic library hiring process. We're going to be talking about employment law. And as always, we are very grateful and open to your suggestions about what you want to see and what you want to talk about when it comes to the programming that we're creating. And then I'll hand it over either to Anne or to Stephanie to talk about a really good opportunity to practice all of these things that we talked about today.
So we are having an in-person event. We finally have a date. It's going to be May 12th, after work for some of us, 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. We have a venue. It's called 825 Arts, and it's in St. Paul. We've got the address up there. And we're still in the planning phase, but some of the things that we have planned, we'll have some food, and then we're going to invite some people in like Minnesota library leadership, to come. So you have a chance to connect with those people as well as others in the library community. And then we're going to have some very friendly, approachable, but structured activities for networking, for all of us who are a little bit intimidated by it, just to help us network with each other in a way that is a little more comfortable. But we'll have an RSVP and some other details coming out in the future.
Great. Anne, do you want to say anything about the event other than you're really excited about it?
No, I think it'll be great. We hope to have a good sized crowd. I think it'll be fun.
I do think it's worth mentioning that the location that we chose, 825 Arts, is available. Of course, there's parking available, but it's also accessible from public transportation right off the
Green line.
the Green Line.
Yeah.
So we hope that you
It's easy
come.
to find. It's an interesting building too. And another activity will be, we're hoping that the people who work in the building and have some insight into its history, because has a checkered history. It started out as a theater, it was a speakeasy. So we hope one of their staff members are going to give tours of the building and explain its history.
And now it's a really beautiful community space for a lot of different events and bringing people together. And one of those is, ooh, Heather, it does sound like a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. So we're really excited to be able to host that. They're in a historical building that now is doing really good things for the community and bringing them together.
So, and those of you who are from Vermont or South Carolina, if you're planning on a visit to Minnesota, maybe that's the week you should come.
The weather, I can't promise that it will be better because again, it's Minnesota, but the weather should be a lot better that time of year. Okay, so we've had really good discussion throughout, but let's have a little more wrap-up discussion. 3 questions here. Which question are you most likely to use in a networking event? Do you have any other questions you found helpful while networking? Do you like career-oriented or unique and engaging networking questions more? Heather says she likes the podcast question. She's much more into unique questions for sure. They are a little more fun.
So Heather, do you actually have a podcast? Because that would be an interesting conversation. Oh, you did? Okay. I thought I recognized something about that.
Heather, what was it about, your podcast? Library and data privacy. Okay, cool.
I would agree that the unique, engaging ones are more fun. But also we're all in the library profession and maybe we're in different types of libraries. But we are always inundated with library stuff. So maybe at networking sessions, it's more useful to get to know people on a personal level than on a just what they do for work.
Absolutely. And um, there are opportunities to do both, right? You don't have to choose one or the other. You can do both and tailor it to your environment, like we talked about. Okay, Kira says, I like the question about what you consider to be your expertise or about how you got into the career field. It seems like a lot of people get into the library profession later in their career, so it's interesting to me. Great, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing, Kira. Okay, so we talked about at the beginning what we were hoping to get out of this session, what would make networking a little bit more approachable. Did we cover the things that you came here looking to do? Is there anything else? Do you have any other burning questions? Questions, comments, concerns, jokes? We got what we came for. We're ready to be done.
This was great. Thank you. It really gave me a couple of new things to think about. Really appreciate it.
I'm happy to hear that, Ian. And I just want to reassure you that you have just as much to give as you do to receive in terms of networking. And so don't discount your expertise and your skill sets because someone, as we saw here in this conversation, will definitely benefit from that. So please don't shy away from being a mentor as well as getting one. Okay, Kira's feeling more confident. We love that, Kira. Looking at some local opportunities for networking now. Wonderful. Heather thinks I'm funny, which is great. She's hungry and not creative right now, but we'll think of something funny later. Okay, wonderful. As always, thank you so, so, so much. I loved the participation that we had today. Please come back for the series that we are sharing. Feel free to watch the sessions that we've done previously. I think that they can add some color. They'll definitely add some bad jokes to your experience, right? But there are templates, there are actionable items, tips, tricks that you can, activities from the past sessions that will supplement some of the things and create context and background for some of the things that we talked about today. And then Steph, you'll go to the next slide, please, because we do have our email address. If you do have any other questions, feedback, or suggestions, programming you want to see, please do feel free to reach out to us at hr@metronet.lib.mn.us. And Stephanie put it in the chat as well. So thank you so much. And I hope that you all have a really wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.